Okay. All right, well, welcome everybody to the Nipissing Township Museum Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, October the 2nd, 2024. The meeting starting at 6:30 p.m. We'll start with the disclosure of any pecuniary interest. None. Okay, so we'll move on to, if we could have a motion to approve the minutes of the board meeting held September 4th. Moved by Dave. Seconded by Gladys. So, motion number 2024-18, moved by Dave, seconded by Gladys, that we approve the minutes of the Nipissing Township Board meeting held September 4th, 2024, as presented. All in favor? All right, so we will move on from here to staff updates.
All right, so I'll start with the financial and visitor statistics. So the only open day we had in September was the Fall Community Celebration Day, and the total revenue from that was $1,172.30. $825 of that was from the Pie in the Face fundraiser. Then there was 104 in dollars in donations, and the rest was sales from the gift shop. So that brings the total revenue from 2024 to $5,409.53. And for the total visitors for the season, approximating the numbers that we had at Fall Fest, we were about 125, I believe. So that would have been a total of 538 visitors to the museum this season. And I did also do a multi-year comparison of the museum's revenue and the visitor numbers. So there's quite a bit of fluctuation, especially with the pandemic affecting things. One of the things that really stood out was the visitors who came just to the candy store, just to the gift shop, dropped from 235 to 482 people down to 58 this season. So that's changed quite a bit. But it's, I won't go through all the numbers, but I'll pass this around so everyone can take a look and see. I'll just pass it through. So as I'm sort of closing up for the season, I noticed that in sort of the building and maintenance category, some of the railings and on the porch of the gift shop, and the stages that are outside may need sanding and repainting. The stages may be worth discarding now that we have the gazebo. Generally, that is where the band ends up, since that's where the outlet is. So I'm not sure if it's worthwhile continuing to maintain them. That's something we can think about for the budget at next meeting if necessary. So the next big thing is event planning for next year. So just a little bit of wrap up about the Fall Fest. So the Pie in the Face fundraiser was, first of all, thank you for everyone who participated as a victim or volunteer, sorry. The enthusiasm of the participants made it really fun, and I think the people who were participating in the auction part sort of enjoyed it. And And I thought Steve Moore did an awesome job. But definitely now, having done both a live auction and silent auctions, the silent auctions seem to work better for the sort of the community events like that. And then this year we only had 4 craft vendors. I think this was partly due to it being a Saturday and some of the local vendors participate in other local markets as a regular thing. And also I think some people were confused about the trunk sale at Heritage Park versus craft sale at the museum. So, and I had a chance to talk to some of the recommending members, and just sort of the general feeling was that the event was a little bit too spread out. And so perhaps next year we might consider having a booth at the park instead of trying to compete with the park, if that makes sense. So something to think about. And also sort of related to event planning, both students expressed interest in returning. So if that works out with their plans, then this would be a good year to host more events, as time usually devoted to staff training could be instead used for event planning. And they've also, before they left, we sort of started to brainstorm some ideas. And there were certain things that they were particularly interested in helping to organize as well. So we've got some different ideas, and essentially would just like a little bit of guidance on which events the board would like to go ahead with, and then can start planning and researching what is needed, and get everything ready ahead of time as much as possible. So currently Heritage Day is an annual event that I think we should continue. And I was wondering about, instead of craft vendors at the Fall Fest, as I said, maybe just have the museum have a booth over there, but instead on Heritage Day, since it's a Sunday, invite craft vendors if they would like to set up. And that way, if only a few come, it doesn't really matter one way or the other for us, but we're still able to give the opportunity to local crafters to sell their wares at a local market. So the proposed date would be Sunday, August 17th, 2025.
For the Fall Fest?
No, for Heritage Day.
Okay.
Instead of August 17th, right? Yeah. So that's sort of in line with tradition. I think the third Saturday of August, or sorry, third Sunday of August.
Sunday, yeah.
And then, so I guess the other question is, the past couple of years we've done sort of our own fall fest, and sometimes it was on the same day as the recreations committee's trunk sale. Do we want to plan to have our own event, or do we want to plan to just be a part of theirs and perhaps do a different kind of event in the fall? So there are several ideas that we've had for the fall. So one of the things the students came up with and were really excited about was potentially a murder mystery dinner at the museum. So if we did this after the museum was closed for the regular season, that would give us time to set up. And we could base the clues around the artifacts in the collection, and using a combination of historical information, characters, and fictional ones to make it educational specific to the museum, as well as fun for everyone. So this is something that we could either do at the museum, or something that we could potentially set up at the community center. But for that, I would propose a date of, at the museum, of October, or sorry, September 27th. Because then it would be after our closed season, but it wouldn't yet be very cold. Hopefully.
Is that a Sunday also?
That would be a Saturday.
Saturday.
So that's one potential idea. Another sort of fall winter event that might be of interest would be something for Remembrance Day. So we would host it at the community center and bring in an exhibit that related to the military history and the experience of people in the First and Second World Wars who were in Nipissing, and to bring in some speakers. So potentially having several speakers, someone who's currently serving in the military, perhaps someone who lived through the Second World War and lived in Nipissing, who could talk about their experiences at the home front, as it were. And maybe potentially someone who spent their career in the military and has seen changes through the years.
That would be like a dinner.
So, yeah, so the students had come up with the idea of having a dinner with the menu based on wartime recipes and what would have been available as a result of rationing. And cook that in the community center kitchen here, and have a discount, 2 different ticket prices. So one for people who just want to stop in and listen and eat, and a discounted price for someone who's interested in learning about the food and taking part in the cooking. This is very similar to something that I did in high school as part of my history class, and having the potential to participate in that way made history more tangible. Make you feel more connected to any information that I think that is given to you if you're participating in an activity that relates to it versus it just being a lecture. Same thing with having the food that's sort of in some way related to the part of history that we're sort of.
So how close to November 11th did you do this?
So I was proposing a date of Saturday, November 8th. That's why I was asking about a hunting season. They're not that would interfere in people's desire to attend an event.
Saturday, November
8th. Or Sunday, November 9th.
You can bet there'll be a lot of services on the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be
Yeah.
better to do
Yeah, yeah.
Saturday. So that's not to compete.
Well, that weekend, because all the legions will be doing something.
We could always have it earlier or later.
Yeah,
Because the weekend before that, if we could do the Saturday, November 1st or the Sunday, November 2nd.
Those 2 would probably be the 2 best dates.
Yeah,
better than,
Yeah. Starting the Remembrance Month off
okay.
with an event,
yeah.
in my opinion, anyway, because the 8th and 9th, that weekend, there's going to be events, and then the 15th, 16th, there's going to be events.
Okay. Yeah, because we don't want to, like, that's, I think the biggest thing for us as a smaller museum, we don't want to compete with anybody else.
No, and the 8th and 9th are the closest to Tuesday.
Yeah.
Is the 11th, so 8th and 9th, they're too close. Everybody's going to be doing something.
It's also something that people start thinking about quite a bit before the actual day. So I think having it a bit earlier would.
Now, would it be in our best interest to speak to the Blossom Legion and the rest of the region?
I think that would be awesome if we could get more people involved. I think that would definitely make a big difference. So is that something that the board is interested in hosting next year? Yeah, so instead of having our own Fall Fest event, we're doing the murder mystery dinner, or doing another fall event. Just because I don't want to have too many events and
closed season?
Or just in general, because it does take time to prepare. And depending on staff time and resources, we have more or less, so. I'd rather have maybe 2 to 4 events spread out and do them as well as we possibly can. Than try to have too many events and just be struggling to get them all to be good.
That might be good because the school kids could make.
Well, that might be something too, if we already have, if I get some of the material ready and it's set up in the museum beforehand, they could always come to the museum, and sort of, I know schools, they are less likely to want to take the students on trips in the fall, but they might be interested if there's a specific Remembrance Day type program that they can
Well,
participate in.
generally, don't the students come over to the Senate?
I think they do,
Remembrance
but I've
Day.
never been there on Remembrance
I
Day.
think it's so.
Yeah.
They did last year.
And do they usually have it on the actual day?
Yeah, on the actual
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. So we could reuse the exhibit material from the event for school programming if the school's interested. So,
So that's the decision we have to make, right?
yeah, so we're just deciding on what direction we want to take our fall event.
Well,
I think it would be a good idea, and we sure have lots of availability of a lot of materials, and you,
yeah,
Yeah. And if, as you say, we get the legions involved, then there's even more material that's available to us. More speakers, more interest.
but as far as getting World War II veterans, that's getting harder and harder.
I know
to
it's
do.
getting hard.
Because you're getting
So we
fewer
do it
and fewer.
this year, better than trying 5 years' time. Because we do want to capture it while it's still available.
But it probably wouldn't hurt to seek out career conflict veterans as
Mhm.
well. There's more of those around.
Yeah.
Not a lot more, but
It doesn't need to be specific, it's whoever is willing to speak. Because that can also be, it can be difficult to talk about one's experience.
so how do we go about making the decision on that?
Well, you can start the motion. Did you have an earlier event or were these the only events that you were looking at?
So we did Heritage Day. I'll come back to one in maybe this spring, summer, but like the only other thing that I would suggest for fall would be doing a catered harvest supper outdoors at the museum on a Saturday evening with a live band. Keep it very simple, but that kind of thing would have to be a ticketed event as well.
But there's a challenge with that.
Yes, we have to have a rain date. Whereas, well, we have tents, but they don't have sides.
Yeah.
And they're not very large. And renting a very large covered tent. How expensive that would be.
A rain date here.
There's different options, and just because we pick one this year doesn't mean we can't do something different next year. So we just have to figure out what we want to try in 2025.
Is there a theme selected for Heritage Day next year?
Not yet. Yes, we should come back to that. Sorry, I got too excited about all the other things.
No,
I
that's-
was just thinking of working it all in together.
Well, that, yes, that would make sense too. I did have, in terms of the exhibit planning ideas, since we had the Rosso Nipissing Road this past season, I would focus a similar exhibit next year on the other route that the settlers took via the Mattawa, Ottawa, Lake Nipissing, South River route. So it's something to do with water, waterways, water biodiversity.
Yeah, because the command end was predominantly the Rosso Nipissing. This end, except for the Chapmans came up this way too. Through the Ottawa.
Yeah,
Nipissing
yeah.
Road. But
there were quite, it depended on where they were coming from, and they settled
Yeah.
all over the two townships. But we had quite a few that I think some that came via the United States or came more directly to Nipissing from Europe came up, were more likely to come up the road. Those that had families that had already been settled somewhere else in Ontario or Quebec, they tended to come via the waterway. So
okay, so our decision here is to Heritage Day, pick a theme.
And as far as the Remembrance Day, if we got a hold of Anthony Rhoda's office, they probably have people that go around and speak on behalf that are professionals from the armed forces.
Mhm.
I'm sure,
Would always say so.
yes.
So the November event, if we have the November event, we're looking at November 1st or 2nd.
and I know there's also, there's a military museum in North Bay as well. They might have volunteers who would be willing.
So that's two events. We're still thinking of Fall Fest.
Well, I think, as far as I know, the Recreation Committee likely will host a similar event next year, and we can participate by bringing an exhibit, a booth, setting up something in the Heritage Park. We could either have the museum open or closed and have visitors not visitors, volunteers in each building, and have the gift shop open, but sort of focus our sort of event-specific planning on having something at the Heritage Park versus trying to draw visitors to the museum.
It may be a good idea to try and sell whatever's left in the candy and some of the merchandise as well.
Yeah.
Over at the park.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah. that would be good. Display.
so is everyone content just with sort of having a booth at whatever event the Recreation Committee does if they would like us there?
There's no reason why not. I mean, it'd be fine. It'd be a lot better than having it so spread out.
Yeah,
But
okay,
there again, they have to think about that for everything,
So we
Yeah.
can.
Not just-
Sure.
because it was way too spread.
well, I think it's, yeah, if we packed everything into the Heritage Park, it might have been a little bit easier.
That makes
And then we
sense,
could
I
have
think,
used
yeah.
the museum for parking in the township office, and I think that's their idea for next year.
So that's three potential events.
So the other event that we came up with was sort of like tea in the gazebo with a guest speaker at the museum or in the museum if there's inclement weather. So have a specific theme for the lecture and sort of have the food themed accordingly. So for example, maple syrup. Having maple syrup themed food, having someone who's willing to talk about the history of maple syrup in the area, how it's manufactured, how things have changed. Just as an example, or, you know, having Cannon Bush food, suggested when I mentioned this earlier. Having sort of like, sort of replacement for Pie Fest in the sense that we would have.
So that would be early in the season, and that would be like a July event.
Yeah, so, based on past Pie Fest / Strawberry Social event, I would say Sunday, July 13th.
So we would have that event, we would have speaker.
Someone who is willing to talk about a particular theme or subject. And yet to be determined. Depending on who we can find.
Well, some of the producers would be pretty good speakers, actually.
Yeah,
That we have here,
yeah.
yeah, they would be.
What's that?
Some of the producers that, the maple syrup producers here are good speakers. I
Yeah.
mean, there's people, they already do that,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
they would be possibilities for a speaker.
Yeah, and we would sort of, we could build like a small exhibit to sort of support what they're talking about. The artifacts that we have. We can kind of highlight it that way. Sure. Like I said, it would sort of, I think it would depend on who we found that was willing to speak and what subject it would be, whether it's maple syrup or something else, and then we'd figure out the menu based around that and have 2 options tops. And tea, coffee, lemonade. Not like Pie Fest where there's like 10 different kinds.
Well, the selection of pies is pretty slim there. I'll give you that.
Okay, so those are the ideas that we have. We're very open to other ideas. But if we can make a decision on what we would like to plan for next year, then I can get started on that.
Costellos are very well-spoken people. Dave Matthews isn't shy by any means. He's
No.
being interviewed all the
He's
time.
been doing maple syrup his whole life.
Yeah,
like he
both
did
of
it
them are.
Jamie
at
Moore
home
probably
before.
would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's that? Jamie Moore.
So just based on the comments already made, it sounds like if we did a maple syrup themed high tea in July, Heritage Day seemed to be determined. We had a booth at the Fall Fest, and we did the Remembrance Day event. Is that what everyone is comfortable with and would like us to pursue? So if you want to
If we
ask.
could get a big enough flat top, have the maple syrup and a pancake. Somebody's gotta have a commercial flat top, I would think.
We have
The one that,
one
the
that
soccer
donated
stuff.
it.
Yeah,
We have
oh, okay.
That one.
See some,
Just itchy to be used, eh?
Costco sell a pancake mix. It's bulletproof. And they're the fluffiest, I can't think, I'll think of it in a minute, but it's a big bag and it's not very expensive and they're all, you'd think you were a professional. Add water, stirred,
There we go. That's
yeah,
The greatest cheese of all time.
yeah, it's, It'd be something to think about.
Okay, oh, right, so I'm going to add lib some dates here off of my notes while I'm reading this.
Sure.
Okay, so if I could get a mover and a seconder. And what the motion is that the Nipissing Township Museum 2025 events will be. So start out with July event, Sunday, July the 13th, IT. Speaker with the theme. Second event will be Heritage Day on the 17th. And third would be,
A fall event combined with the rec committee.
yes, so basically the Fall Fest.
Well, do we need a motion if we're not co-hosting, if we're just a
Oh, we're-
participant?
Yeah.
Probably not, no,
Yeah,
just
so-
attending, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
so
just
I would
attending,
I would
yeah.
just move on to.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the November event for November 1st or 2nd.
That's up to the committee what day. they
Yeah.
want
Yeah,
to do.
Saturday or
We can
Sunday.
decide that. We can nail
Yeah,
that down
as
at a
lo-
later
As
date.
long, yeah, if we just know the weekend and that's the type of event we're going to,
We'll do a World War II theme.
military
Military
Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day,
Day.
yeah,
Remembrance Day.
which is every quarter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Okay. Is that clear as mud? Everybody? Enough that the motion can be acted on? So can I get a motion? Dave and Rob.
I can write it in there.
Send that to you, I'll send.
Okay,
I've got-
all right. So did we want to,
One second, you gotta,
we
oh,
just-
sorry,
Before everybody votes on it, I have to read the motion in its
entire.
entirety. In writing that I can read, well, I can read this, but it's screw it. Historically, Kim has been. Okay, so motion number 2024-19, moved by Dave, seconded by Rob, that the Nipissing Township Museum 2025 events will be IT July 13th, 2024, Heritage Day, August the 17th, 2024, and Remembrance Day, November 1st or 2nd, 2024. All in favor?
oh, 2025, all
Sorry.
2025,
25.
25.
All in
I'm still,
favor?
Okay, we're all in favor. I'm just gonna amend it here officially.
Yeah.
Oh,
Better sign it.
better sign it.
I was doing so well up till that point.
Stumbling through our
Yeah.
agenda.
All right,
here.
Yeah.
So did we want to discuss the theme for Heritage Day or leave that for a future meeting?
It's up to the committee if they want to look at events or themes here.
I'd like to recommend you give a couple of days to think about it.
That's totally
I
fine.
would like to do some research and
Perfect.
Fair enough.
Okay, so
Fair
we'll
enough.
just
Yeah.
leave that for the next meeting.
Okay.
So the next thing on the agenda is artifact status report. So I was able to do a little bit of data entry into our passport system. And I brought the artifacts that have yet to be cataloged from this year to the office. So hopefully I will complete that within this month. The next thing before we move on to strategic planning, part of that is the gift shop merchandise, so we're not gonna decide on anything. But just sort of an update on what's left and a little bit, something to think about what we want, where we want to take the gift shop in the future. So it can be discussed at the next meeting. So as I said, the candy sales have definitely gone down in popularity. And although it's something that is still part of the experience and we'll still probably have, it'll be again a much smaller amount than we had this year. So we also have sort of sold out a lot of the gift type items at the store, so I think we only have about one mug left. The books by Andrew Hines sold well, the ones that we purchased this year. There's very little jewelry left. So I think it would be a good idea to have a few things to replace those items. So some of the ideas that we have are to touch up the exhibit, the games that were created this year and print them to be sold. And using some of the exhibit material that was created on Canva to sort of maybe put onto magnets or to mugs or to do the wall posters of the exhibit, that kind of thing. So we also, I'm suggesting ordering a little bit more clothing. So we ran out of a few sizes in the unisex black t-shirts. I was wondering about potentially getting kids t-shirts in some different fun colors. And potentially some hooded sweaters, as we did have some a few years ago and they did sell pretty quick. They were priced relatively low. I've had trouble finding anything that would be priced quite that low. But it is something that was popular, so just something to think about for our budget planning that we'll be doing next meeting. What does the board think that might, what sort of direction would the board like to take the gift store merchandise?
Do we ever talk to any other museums that have a gift shop to see what moves?
I know I've been I haven't talked to them specifically about what they sell. I know I've been to I volunteered at the North Bay Museum for a little while, and I know they had quite a bit of, like they had the stick candy that we tried to get this year and couldn't. And they do have quite a lot of hoodies, and they also are like the depot or the main retailer for model trains in the area. So I know they do ship outside a lot. But that's sort of generally what I remember from the gift shop. I don't know about Calendar Museum. I can't remember last time I was in there.
I don't remember either. I've been in there a few times.
Yeah.
I don't really remember what's in them.
But I did do some research generally on museum merchandise, and the upshot was you're trying to consolidate someone's good memories of the museum. So something that is a practical use, like a hoodie, where, you know, every time they wear it, it reminds them of good experiences, or, you know, their favorite mug that you use in the morning, or the fridge magnet that you use to, you know, put up your schedule on the fridge.
Or even a pen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that you sort of see and use in everyday life that really connects you back to those memories.
Just back to the t-shirts for a minute.
Yeah.
The reason that we only got the black and the darker colors was for every color, there's a minimum quantity.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to go with the other colors, it was way outside of our
Yeah.
budget. So that's why they stuck with those colors back then. So
Okay.
maybe exploring one or
And-
two colors each year, and then we can add to the stock each year.
Yeah.
Would be an option.
Okay. Yeah, when I was looking that up on the one company, it didn't specify that each color was a different. I think it might depend on the color of the embroidery as well, whether you change that. I was a little bit confused about how the pricing
Yeah,
worked.
when I went in and I did the ordering on the last order,
Yeah.
and they had asked for, I think there was like 6 different colors. And by the time we were done, it was thousands, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, no,
Because there's a minimum quantity to get them
Okay.
printed, so.
okay, so, you know, maybe adding just additional sizes in the t-shirt color that we currently have and maybe adding one extra color.
And if you do that each year.
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
You know, you'll still have some left over the next year, and then you'll start to build up a bit more.
Not to put more on your plate, Julian, but I'd like to see you do a bit more research on what we could sell and bring it back to the next meeting. That would be.
Yeah, well, I
I
have a
think-
list, I just started.
I think that maybe travel mugs might be.
I was looking at the travel mugs, they're so expensive,
Are they?
even regular mugs, so. The ones that I looked at a couple different companies, and I was looking at different companies for different things, King Sportswear, a lot of them, there's a minimum order of 50 or 72. And so there was one I was looking at that it's a 13-ounce mug, it's black or gray or white. And their cost per mug for 50 mugs is $8.48, so it would be an investment of $425.
What's our budget for?
Well,
We haven't
that's
done that yet.
that's why I'm trying to pique your interest, because we're gonna have to set the budget next month. And so we know sort of what direction we want to take the gift shop, and that will help determine how much we set the budget for, because
We didn't budget a lot this year
Yeah.
to replenish anything, so we still had quite a bit.
yeah,
So having not used any budget this year and very little last year.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna restock,
I'm just looking at the multi-year comparison of museum revenue. 23, 24, there's no clothing, no books.
so that also was a change in how the merchandise was put into the system. So in previous years, I did 2 different breakdowns of the revenue. One was for the township office and one was specifically for the board. Last year, I didn't do the breakdowns. The office took the money and they put it into the system for the museum. And this year I just continued to do what was done. So it's not that we didn't sell any books or gifts, or sorry, any books or clothing, etc. It's just that they were all lumped in as gifts and merchandise.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah. I could separate them out, but it would take me quite a long time. I'd have to go through every single transaction that happened this summer.
well, just gifts and merchandise revenue so far for 2024 is $662.80. We budgeted $950 for being that low on merchandise. That's still pretty good.
Yeah, because I suspect that we didn't have the merchandise that they wanted.
Yes, I
Because
think
we're
that's,
getting rid of the old stuff, yeah.
yeah, so I think I would like, if we could, because we did have a rack that was on sale for 50% off, if we discount a little bit more and get it off the rack, and then we can put new things on the rack. And then there's even more discounted items, which hopefully we can just get rid of as quickly as possible.
So long as the discount doesn't cut into the cost.
Pardon?
So long as the discount doesn't cut into the cost.
I'm not sure how long we've had them.
Oh.
Some of these items have been there longer than.
Okay.
Are there any hats left?
Yes, there are quite a few ball caps, so I didn't look at getting any new ones. We have 2 different styles. In 4 total different colors. Okay. We usually sell a few each year, not a whole lot.
I have two.
Do you want more?
Good.
How much of the jewelry's left?
I believe there's 5 pieces total of the
So
jewelry.
that's been there for well over 5 years. I think we should reduce that.
Yeah.
a little bit,
Okay.
get it. My opinion on this.
I agree.
As the treasurer, just saying. We did inventory on that last year and.
Yeah.
Hard to few things to be moved.
I think, given how well the books by Andrew Hine sold, I mean, we ordered 10, so 5 of each volume. I think there's only 3 left total. So I know we do have some history books, but perhaps getting a few more that are a little bit more relevant.
No, we can order small lots from.
Yeah, so I think it depends on
Maybe just refurbish what we had,
yeah,
you know, so we sold that many, well, replace that many,
yeah,
then you give us 3 books.
One, there's the ABC book that was created by staff years ago.
Yeah.
We have the original document to print, so going through something like Vista Print or something like that, we could probably print up about 20 and have them ready.
yeah, that was the other thing that for some reason I didn't write on my list, but so we have that as a coloring book. There's a few things that I would like to do as school programs or exhibits that could be turned into a coloring book that would be easily printed. So having those, and having some very cheap sets of coloring pencils. So if someone's up at the cottage, and their kids are getting bored because it's rainy, you know, they have options.
Make sure there's crayons there to go with it.
Pardon?
And make sure there's crayons there to go with it.
Yeah.
They buy them.
Yeah.
Now, well, the good thing about Mr. Hines' book is the fact he does so much advertising for it, that everybody knows about it.
Yeah. That's kind of free advertising for us if we're trying
Yeah.
to sell it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I believe there was a Georgian Bay, a book on the Georgian Bay Canal project that someone approached us about several years ago, and at the time, we didn't want to purchase anything else for the store. But that might be another one, because I've heard people talking about it, like visitors speaking about it when they come to the museum, so might be another point of interest.
So for the next meeting for the budget, we should have a mock-up of anything that we want to do with pricing. Strategic plan.
right. Exhibit and strategic plan.
Yes, so Jillian went over the exhibit, but I believe everybody should have in their package a copy of the draft strategic plan for the museum, as well as a questionnaire that I sent out after the fact, a separate email of questions to start planning for strategic plan, and that's why we invited Chris here tonight to help us through our planning stages. And this is really the information that Jillian and I put down in the document was really just food for thought to help guide the process. It isn't what the strategic plan is, it's just really to give us a start in the document. So we're certainly looking for everybody's feedback and input as we go through it, the mission, the vision, and the strategic areas for planning forward in it. And those questions there sort of help guide as we go forward in the strategic planning process.
So we just kind of use this as a guideline, food for thought for the next meeting.
No, we're going through this
Oh.
tonight. So there should be one that looks like this that says draft on it.
I don't know that.
Do you have another page in there? That one. You can have this one. Okay. So this, as Chris had put together in this to plan our document, is that when we have a strategic plan for the museum that complements council strategic plan, it's an appendix almost to council strategic planning and their goals and alignment over the course of council. When we have one, it really assists us in applying for grants. So it's an important document for us to have going forward. And then it will also lead into any visions that you have for the Nipissing Township Museum. So
It sets the stage for your fundraising. And most grants now want to see documentation where this is a planned project with work put into it, not just, well, there's funding, so let's.
and it also helps as the township is planning their budget and for capital projects, the capital budget. So if we've identified here, you know, for example, under the capital building and ground infrastructure, you know, the maintenance or replacement of the historic church windows, you know? So how do we go about doing that? What else might need to be on here? You know, so those are things that Jillian and I talked about, but you as board members and working at the museum, talking to community members, volunteering as you have Mary in the church building, what else are you seeing? Being in the hardware store, what are you hearing from the community? What other visions do you have for the museum? So.
I think with the grounds, we could use some gravel. Not much, probably 5 ton. Just where you go to the grass to walk up to the museum, there's a puddle. When it rains.
Yeah.
And if we can take the backhoe and square it, like square the parking lot, you just blade it up. And then all that grass will be out of there and it'll look like a squared off gravel parking lot. There's lots of gravel underneath it, but that one spot needs
Yeah,
a bit of
because the
fresh
grass is coming up.
coming through. So you can backblade all that grass, make it nice and square and refresh the gravel would be nice.
Yeah.
And then the walkways, we used to weed whack them out. So if we could even put some 6 mil plastic like vapor barrier, follow the walkways and weigh them down for the winter and into the spring, it'll choke out, it'll kill off all those roots.
Oh, we have plastic that we can use.
Yeah. And
Yes,
then,
we do. You can go from your
For the
place
next
to
50
your
years.
place.
but that way it would suffocate the roots.
Instead of trying to pull them
And then, once you weed whack it out, or, I don't think you wanna spray it, but there are friendly sprays you can make. Salt
You
and,
can pressure wash that.
yeah. The only thing, the fines that are in the middle, when you compact the brick down,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you can open it up where,
Well, if you take the fines out, then you could take a couple of bags of silica sand and replace it.
Yeah.
Because if you replace it with silica sand, one, the sugar ants don't like, the critters don't like silica sand because it's sharp. So you won't have the ants pushing the ant hills up through it, which they do, which leads to plants taking over through those.
yeah.
So,
But even if we can kill the root system off.
Yeah.
Or you can mix salt and baking soda
Vinegar,
and, yeah,
plain vinegar and
and
water.
vinegar and spray them. But
and
you
then
gotta
edges.
follow the, yeah, like keep your edges so you don't kill it off. And,
Just make the grounds look better.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
a lot of work, like it wouldn't take long to do it and then come up.
And we did do, we did have a volunteer come in and help us divide some of the perennial plants in front of the porch of the museum around the gazebo, and they did look a little sad this year, but I think they survived, and hopefully next year it'll look a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah.
It was dry this year though.
It was also, we did the dividing probably too late in the year, just based on everyone's
Oh, yeah.
availability. So they suffered the consequence of that, but
See, these are things that we can do that cost very little.
That's just operational, that's not capital is what we're
No,
trying
okay,
to.
yeah.
So, I remember we stained the church building. a Couple
Yeah.
times since I've been here.
Yeah,
Are we ready to do that again? That's the stuff that I need to know about, that's the stuff that costs.
I think it still looks good.
The
We use
stain is
that
still
kind of
good.
black.
yeah, it's more just the areas that were painted rather than stained that seems to be suffering at the moment, and
Yeah.
only where it's exposed, like the gazebo is doing okay because it's got covered roof. The porch is okay where it's covered. It's more the areas that are exposed, so the ramp, the little stairs on the side exit.
The stairs at the very front of the church, or the candy shop building, the office building, do they have a delineator line at the edge? That was always an issue, because they're the same color going down, so it's a visual.
I remember talking about that. I
And you
can't
put it in
picture,
once. And
I
don't
can't
know
remember,
how.
I can't picture whether or not they're there at the moment.
We
I
did,
will check.
it was done once.
It
and
was
done
I
once
don't
and
know
then
what it looks like now. I
Somebody
can't-
took it away, and I'm not sure what happened, but
I want, well,
had
the
it.
stairs aren't covered by the porch, could have just worn away.
The steps going into the church,
No, the church,
No,
the
the-
gift shop.
no,
gift shop.
but I'm saying the steps going into the church, right? That's right, yeah, so it's not, check and see if it needs any,
Those are small too.
yeah,
Oh,
that's a maintenance item.
there's another maintenance item that I didn't realize until after I took the sign down for the church. The bar that was holding it up, was rotted, so it came with the sign. So we'll have to replace that.
So I fixed the sign. It's been
The sign's
strong this
great,
time.
it's just still attached to the bar that was holding to the belt frame. That's all.
It just works.
So we've talked about the windows for the church.
Yeah.
Have we priced?
Well, you gotta find somebody who does,
Well, we talked about Gary Toogood,
yeah,
like he'll make window casements, but I'm sure some of the bigger window places will make windows look old for you. Like Mason, down in Sunridge, like they make everything down there from scratch. So,
A previous member of the board had a family member that actually redoes the windows. And they had given a price of, I believe we were at 25,000, 10,000. It was a lot.
oh,
So it's been on our capital forecast and just moving,
yeah,
rolling forward.
that's it,
And the foundation came first.
yeah.
So the foundation's going to be at least $110,000.
Yeah, I think-
That's the priority.
I think the primary thing on our capital budget should be the foundation
Yeah.
first, and then anything else, we'll try and maintain until we get that foundation. My opinion. Rest of the board goes,
Definitely needs to be done for sure.
What about the other buildings, the other outbuildings? Do they need anything? Do you need a new building? Is there anything? So
I
what
would
we're
love a new building.
small. Where I'd like to see the conversation go is what big project would you like to see over the next 10 to 20 years that we could work towards? If you're going to consolidate a building or if you're going to do something like that, that's what we were looking for.
well, if we were gonna consolidate a building or maybe do one building to do a larger amount, but be increasing the square footage of the candy store potentially, or something like that, because we're already looking at foundation there anyway. The church,
That one can't be changed.
No, you gotta
can't
leave
change
it.
it.
They've already done all that work.
Yeah,
yeah,
No.
so if we were gonna do another building, it would have to be the candy.
Add to the candy store.
So you're happy with Carlin's Hut?
yeah, it's in good shape, roof, wall wise.
Perfect.
Yeah, the hardware stores, it's a little congested in there.
Well,
It's much better than.
Oh, yeah, it's better now than it's ever
Like,
been.
yeah,
well, there are still issues with it in the sense that because of the lack of insulation and other things, like there's
Oh, the-
fluorescence all over the concrete floors every year. Because a large number of the artifacts are on the floor. The contact is not beneficial to their long-term durability.
Is that something that we could look at putting shelving or like?
Yes, if there'd be a way to get it off the floor, Like raised, even just a raised stage or something like that.
Yeah, they have to be on wood.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about that, I was thinking, yeah, just put a wooden floor in.
There are concerns about, because I have had, donors who donated various items, tools specifically to the museum. And when they brought them in, they were in a stable condition and now they're rusted due to, I mean, we control the humidity as much as we can in there, but it's still a concern to keep in mind if we're forecasting or we're trying to create a strategic plan. Just know that we could be taking better care of the artifacts and
So
The
you're
hardware store.
suggesting we say insulate and put a floor in?
Everything
That would
oxidizes.
be great.
Air and moisture, everything oxidizes. You can't stop it.
Yeah, I know,
There are-
but you can mitigate it by controlling the atmosphere around it a little bit.
You'd have to heat it.
I don't find it so bad in the gift shop.
Yeah.
Even the metal items that are in there, it definitely is much worse in the hardware store. And
Now, the gift shop, it's insulated. Of course,
a
it's
little bit,
raised off the ground a little bit.
it's certain, the building, the items inside certainly seem to have been afforded more protection.
Mhm.
As a suggestion, since we're being told to plan ahead of time, if we were to change anything or increase the square footage of, say, the gift shop / office building, a programming space might be beneficial. So a classroom type room. Or it'd be easy to set temporary programs up and take them down for host smaller events. We have been able to host different kinds of events in the church building. However, because of the volume of artifacts that are in there, that we have very little potential to move elsewhere because of their size. Moving those back and forth repeatedly is not ideal.
So you're proposing adding a programming room onto the candy store?
If that's something that we can get a grant for, that would be great.
Well, the thing there is, when I first came out here, we had enough room in your building where you sell all the stuff, that we could have a speaker in. We had a speaker coming once a month,
Okay.
different speakers coming, talking about like antique glass or something like that. And it was an evening event, but you had enough room to sit down in there.
Yeah, we don't.
That was before the candy counter was put in.
Oh, yes, yeah. So like,
And that's something, to be honest, at the moment, we don't really spend much time back there because the sales counter is on the other side. We could push those counters back and it could just be a display area.
but I was
Maybe worth
thinking
looking at.
that if we got, so we had a place to have a speaker, which adding a small room on might work somehow.
But we also have far more artifacts than they had before. Yeah. I mean, the more collection that recently, in the last couple of years came in, there was a number of different pieces of furniture.
Yeah, we're a small enough museum that it doesn't take a whole lot of furniture.
To make a big difference, yeah.
Artifacts, yeah.
Maybe it's worth us taking a look at that and just looking at what options there are. We can do that before the next meeting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in looking at the vision or mission that's on here, does anybody have anything that they'd like to add or take away? Or we can bring this back to the next meeting if you want more time to look at it. I saw Debbie over there writing down on hers, so if you've got some suggestions to add to under the strategic initiatives, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can bring this back to the next meeting if everybody wants to make, if there's other items that you'd like added in, or if there's items you'd like to add into the mission or vision, or anything under the strategic initiatives that we can add in there, that would be great. So that we can continue to work forward on the document, and we'll take the comments that have been put here with respect to the 3 buildings into it as well.
Yeah, because this, for the time being, will be a living document, right? So we will, either add to it, take away from it, or refine it, and then make decisions on it, so.
Typically, the strategic plan is redone with every term of council, and that's when we reappoint each board or committee. So every 4 years it'll get a refresh, but it's just to give us a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah, so we get it off the ground with this one. Okay. Next item. Okay, if I could get over and second for the change of the date for the regular scheduled meeting in November. Change it from November the 6th to November the 13th. So motion number 2024-20, moved by Debbie, seconded by Dave, that the Nipissing Township Museum Board change the date of the November 6th, 2024 regular scheduled meeting to November the 13th, 2024, canceling the November 6th meeting. All in favor? Carried. Great. So this here is to amend the starting time of the museum board meetings from 6:30 to 6 o'clock. So that everybody gets home a little bit earlier, especially with. So if I can get a mover and second on that. By Dave. So motion number 2024-21, moved by Rob, seconded by Dave, that the Nipissing Township Museum Board amend the start time of the meetings from 6:30 to 6 p.m. All in favor? Carried. All right. The Nipissing Township Museum Board amend the annual meeting schedule to March to November yearly to allow events and programming. If I can get a, did you guys want to discuss it first or? No? It'll mean we'll have a couple more meetings a year, but it'll get us better organized. So
it's from first Wednesday in March?
Yeah.
Till November.
Yeah.
So we'll December, January, February on.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll first that.
Moved by Dave, seconded by. Mary. So motion number 2024-22, moved by Dave, seconded by Mary, that the Nipissing Township Museum Board amend the annual meeting schedule to March to November yearly to allow the event and program planning. All in favor? Carried. Great. We're in a seconder to adjourn.
Did we open up our hands?
I think so. So motion number 2024-23, moved by Gladys, seconded by Mary, that the board meeting is hereby adjourned at 7:40 p.m. The next meeting will be held Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. All in favor?